In fact, there's a lot of development this afternoon as well on some other legal issues, because the Ghana Tourism Authority has been accused of using a musician's work without permission or credit to advertise the country to tourists. We do know the Ghanaian musician, Kirani Ayat, says that he actually reached out to the government for support before shooting his Gouda video, but he was turned down. That tweet, of course, we have that coming up for you shortly. This video that we're speaking about was shot in northern Ghana and, of course, features some scenic views and showcases quite a lot. So excerpts of that statement there indicating, first of all, the concerns of the musician, indicating that the president of Ghana has used my video, which is the Gouda video, in this ad, and the ad is below there, to promote Ghana. I was actively reaching out to the Ministry of Tourism in 2018. That's 2018-2019, to use this video to push for tourism in the northern parts of the country, and got absolutely no reply. Yet today, it's in an ad and no one reached out to me for permission. And of course, this is beginning to cause a lot of global attention, as the BBC is also reporting on this. But let's first of all bring you excerpts of a statement reacting to the claims by the artist. It's by the Ghana Tourism Authority, indicating that attention has been drawn to a tweet by Kirani Ayat and a publication by the Ghana Web portal regarding a video produced by the Ghana Tourism Authority, which has been shared on our platform since 2019 and recently on social media handles of the president. For the record, the footage in question was acquired legitimately from a bespoke creative agency as part of a project in 2018. The video has thus played on several local and international platforms without any issue. The content was used in accordance with the terms agreed with this agency and not as being alleged. So according to Clause 2B of the MOU signed with the agency, in terms of the obligations, the agency is required to deliver some sort of imaginative and impactful social strategies, such as content or documentaries for the use of the Ghana Tourism Authority as it so wishes. Agency delivered the content to the authority, and the authority used the content in accordance with the terms of the Memorandum of Understanding. Of course, the above notwithstanding, since the authority became aware of the tweet from Kirani Ayat, we have reached out to the agency to deal with the matter. This is without prejudice to any legal options available to the authority against the artist or the agency, and vice versa. That's the position of Ghana Tourism Authority. Joining me now is Sarah, and she's actually an expert when it comes to intellectual property. She's an intellectual property attorney, also an author of a book on that. Thank you, Sarah, for your time. So we're seeing this, and it's beginning to cause some global stir, particularly as we're using this said video on an international platform. What do you make of the back and forth between the artist and the Ghana Tourism Authority? For some, it paints the picture that we're not truly aware of the nitty-gritties when it comes to intellectual property. I don't know personally for you what you think about this development.
Well, thank you very much for inviting me to comment on this. I would say that I agree with you when you say that we are not really too familiar with the intellectual property rights in general. Copyrights are given to statutory rights given to creators of works that are original. And these works include musical works, audiovisual works. And these rights include the right to reproduction, broadcasting, adaptation, alteration of the work. The rights belong to the owner of the created work. So this owner can exploit the work by licensing it, can exploit it by himself, or can license it to another person to use, or can even assign the whole right to someone else to use the work, or even decide to actually donate the work to someone else. In this case, I have seen the notice from the Ghana Tourism Authority,
Yes.
and I was a bit concerned about the posture, because to say that they obtained it from an agency and so it was legitimately obtained. Yes, they may have obtained that clip, that video clip from the agency, but I would advise that they should step back, find out whether the agency actually obtained the rights from the owner.
That's a very critical point. That's a very critical point you're raising, because now they're saying, well, we give the contract out to an agency. That agency is supposed to get us the very best. If they fail to do so, what's the legal implication, for instance, on those who circulate the video and those who even repost it?
So those who actually generated this video, this advertisement, will be liable in law. Those who commissioned them to do the work are liable in law. And the liability is both in the civil way and also criminal. It is an offense in Ghana by our own copyright law to infringe on somebody's copyright. And it even involves a jail term and fine. And so I would advise that if you want to use somebody's work, please, especially for commercial purposes, for personal use, our laws provide for permitted uses of copyrighted work. If your work, the use of the work, does not fall within those permitted uses, then please, you need to seek the consent of the owner of the work. If you commissioned a work and they commissioned it through this agency, we expect that the agency should have done its work by seeking a license from the owner of the work before passing it on to those who commissioned them to do the work.
I'm interested in the criminal liability and what the law says. Where's that liability go?
Yes. Our criminal law provides for, our copyright law has provision for the criminal offenses. It is an offense in Ghana to infringe on copyright, somebody's copyright.
Yeah, but
you find that in
I'm sorry for cutting through, but in this case, we find the president of the land also circulating the content on his social media page. This is someone who cannot, for now, by virtue of his position, stand trial in any court. So who's going to take that responsibility, by the way? Because the artist appears to have a challenge with the president circulating the work.
The artist indeed has a cause of action against all those who are using the work to advertise Ghana, because it is for commercial purposes. So she does have a cause of action against them. What I cannot speak to is that, well, the law says it is a crime, it is an offense, but of course there are other matters that may come to play. I don't have the full facts. What I have is that what I've seen is that notice from the GTA, and also some stories circulating on social media. So I cannot say emphatically that the president will go to jail for doing what he has done. But what I can say is that this owner of the copyrighted work has a right to his work, and a cause of action will arise anytime somebody uses the work without his consent. In Ghana, it appears as if when we use the works of these authors, we assume we do them a favor. We are doing them a favor, so we can just give them anything we want. We can choose to mention them. We can choose not to give them anything, to ignore them. But we have the law, and the law it's clear. You are not allowed to do that in law.
Interesting. You are an author of, remind me of the title again.
Monetizing your creativity.
Your creativity is monetizing your creativity is solely a piece of document dealing with some of these hurdles, intellectual property and related matters. So what do you, for instance, put across in that book when it comes to recommendations for people who may be using creative work for commercial purposes?
So in that book, I have spelled out the rights of the owners of the works. I have also spelled out how they can commercialize their works, and I've also stated how they can enforce their rights. And the enforcement, as I have mentioned, includes the civil as well as the criminal aspect. So when you read that book, it gives you step by step what steps you need to take in order to enforce your rights. So this gentleman, for instance, if he gets hold of this book, will tell him what steps he needs to take. He needs to consult an IP lawyer who can start taking steps on his behalf. You don't necessarily have to pursue the civil and then the criminal aspect. You may also choose alternative dispute resolution. There's mediation facilities at the Copyright Office. The Copyright Administrator has powers to mediate in matters like that. So he can opt to go to the Copyright Office for mediation in this matter. But I would also advise the GTA to actually step back and reconsider their position if what I am reading is true. If that is the whole story, then I would advise that they step back and reconsider their position. Because in that notice, they have even stated how long they have been infringing on the gentleman's rights.
Yes, as way back, as far back as 2018.
Yes, exactly. So it goes to show that probably they are not too much aware of the implications of what they have stated in their notice.
Okay, so let's wrap up, and let me take your thoughts on what we should be doing as a nation in terms of creating much more awareness on intellectual property rights.
As a nation, I believe that most of us see intellectual property rights as an abstract phenomenon. It's a concept, an abstract concept. Meanwhile, it is very practical. It's a day-to-day matter. It concerns our day-to-day activities. It is only when the issues arise that we realize that, oh, indeed, this thing really works. For instance, this had happened. So because of that, other creators will know that, yes, if somebody infringes on my right, I have a right to take the person on. Creativity needs to be encouraged. Creators need to be motivated. And that is why we have the intellectual property laws in the first place. In other jurisdictions, you cannot do that. You cannot just infringe on somebody's work and assume that it is okay or assume that you are doing the person a favor. You will be slapped with a huge sum of, damages for doing that. But over here, we don't do that. So probably the courts may also look at that direction, look at the kind of compensation, the kind of damages they give to artists or creators who litigate in these matters. Because from my reading of the decided cases in Ghana, usually the compensation is usually on the low side, I must say. So probably the judges would also look at a more deterrent compensation for these creators whose rights are infringed. And when we actually practicalize intellectual property, we take up our rights, we know what our rights are, and we take steps to enforce our rights. In no time, everybody will be aware of intellectual property rights. Because I know that if I take something that does not belong to me, just as if I take somebody's somebody's tangible asset, the person can take me on. Similarly, if I take somebody's intangible assets, definitely the person will have a right against me, and I don't want to bear the consequences of that. So as a nation, we need to actually practicalize this IP. Let's enforce our rights, and through the enforcement of our rights, a lot more people will be aware of that. So I encourage this gentleman to take I'm not asking him to take anybody on, but it's a good thing that he has brought it to the limelight for everybody to know what is going on.
Yeah, it's his right anyway if he takes anyone on. Sarah, would have to leave it here. Sarah Anku, author of Monetizing Your Creativity. There's a lot to learn from that content. She's also an intellectual property attorney. Thank you for your time here on The Pulse.